Hello, and welcome to the Simply Business Interview Podcast, a podcast created by business owners for business owners. I am your host, John Jennings. I believe that most business owners are working way too hard for much too little. And one of our issues is that we overcomplexify things. I believe the answers are almost always within us or within our reach. I like to say that I'm a simple man with simple ideas. So welcome to Simply Business. All right, today I'm joined by Kevin Eddins, who is the founder and managing partner of Eddins Dominion Law Group. And just glad to have Kevin here. He's got a great story and a great law practice here in Louisville and St. Matthews. Kevin, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Sure. We're Eddins Dominion Law Group. For those who are familiar with St. Matthews, we're just west of Trinity High School, right at the corner of St. Matthews Avenue, Westport Road, kind of in the heart of St. Matthews. We have we've been sort of back and forth between about 10 and 12 lawyers. The building houses several different practices. On the first floor, we have a family law practice that is overseen by my partner and co-founder, Alyssa Domini. We do some estate planning and probate work down there. We do some real estate transactions, both residential and commercial deals. And then upstairs is the area of practice that I oversee, which is the business practice, consisting partly of business litigation, which is business disputes and being in the courtroom, and business transactions, which is more paper shuffling, helping people get in and out of business combinations, helping people buy and sell businesses, reviewing all kinds of commercial agreements, leases, non-compete agreements, kind of anything that the typical business owner is gonna have over the course of their life. So from formation to sort of winding up and dissolution of the entities, we kind of help with a broad range of things. I describe my services as kind of a general practitioner for the small mid-sized business owner. Just as you would with your general practitioner in the medical world, they can help you if you have the flu or a broken arm. They're not going to perform open heart surgery on you, but they can handle 90% of the things that a person's going to suffer from. And in the business world, that's sort of our analogy, is that we help folks, business owners, with kind of a wide range of things, and then help them get with a specialist if they need one.
Yeah.
Our firm's we just recently celebrated our 20th anniversary, and that was
Congrats on that.
Thank you very much. An important milestone for us. Had a good showing of folks that were out and about to come and help us celebrate that. So that it was good to celebrate. Also good to have behind us and move on with kind of the day-to-day of what we have to deal with in terms of serving our clients.
Yeah. Well, you serve a very important role for business owners. For one, I am one of those people that just I hate reading legal documents. I mean, if I get a short contract that's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 pages, 4 or 5 pages, I get lost. I don't want to get lost. It starts to just become blurry words to me by this, midway through the second page,
Right. Your eyes are glazing over, and that happens to us sometimes, but
Yeah.
we I always tell people, for one, you want to have a resource, right, that is sort of out of your wheelhouse, whether it's insurance or a CPA or a business lawyer. Regular business owners aren't attuned to the sorts of issues they need to be sensitive to. And I could probably prepare my own tax returns, but I'm not going to do that because it's not the highest and best use of my time. And I think any business owner kind of needs that sort of stable of resources and experts they can turn to help them through whatever the issue is. And the other thing I think it's important to remember, sometimes folks will be anxious or they may be reluctant to seek legal advice. And I always try to remind people, if I were a personal injury lawyer or a divorce lawyer personally, I could understand you might not want to be sitting in my office, but your mindset as a business owner really should be to be proactive in seeking that advice, because we are a lot better in serving you in a sort of document review capacity before you sign something, in a consulting capacity if you've got questions about a specific issue, ahead of the decision, rather than after the fact.
Yeah.
If you haven't consulted us until after you've signed the document, unfortunately, you're stuck with what the document provides. If you haven't consulted us prior to making a decision to terminate an employee and you've done it incorrectly, they may have a lawsuit. And in the litigation world, uh, we are a lot more expensive. Things are a lot more unpredictable, uh, and we're much cheaper on the front end of a problem than on the back end of one. So, in trying to get people in the mindset of understanding that what relatively limited investment they make on the front end is going to be worth it in the long run. That's a conversation we have quite often.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and you said yeah, business. Did you say conflict? Was that the first word? Yeah, Frey, or what was the word you used? Um, Stuff that you handled.
Well, business transactions and business litigation. So it's sort of
Yeah.
disputes that are actively
Disputes, I think was the word. So, but
disputes that are sort of in the early stages, of sort of boiling over. It may be that they've gotten sued and they come here and they say we need someone to defend us and maybe help us determine whether we have a counterclaim. What do we need to do with that? Or the transactional space. It's really trying to get people sort of in and out of particular entities or help them with buying, a
yeah,
stock sale, buying assets of a business.
yeah. You probably have a whole lot of more interesting stories on the dispute side, but you probably can't share too many of those. So that's
Yeah,
uh,
we've seen a lot, and it's I guess that's what makes our practice interesting. We're not a collection shop that does nothing but collect delinquent accounts all day, or
mhm.
handle car wrecks, or insurance defense firms. You never quite know who's going to walk in the door from day to day. Uh, there's a very wide variety of things and issues that business owners struggle with that
Yeah.
we've helped them with over the years.
So you've 20 years thinking back to that time. What was the impetus behind starting your law group?
Well, my partner and I both came from a pretty good sized firm downtown. We, for me, it was, I guess, the realization it was a good group of folks and folks we still have relationships with and see on a somewhat regular basis. Um, for me, it was just the realization that with a firm that had 7 or 8 kind of existing partners, I was just an associate, but if I managed to get up to a level of partner, I'd be just one of, 8 or 9, and
Mhm.
therefore able to cast my vote in respect to whatever decision I had or whatever direction I thought the firm should go in. But I kind of came to the realization that, I can do time here and get to the point where you become a partner, but even at that level, having achieved that, really have no discretion over what
Mhm.
direction the business goes in, and no real opportunity to kind of guide, the ship and make it what I want it to be. Um,
Mhm.
so that was kind of the main thing. Of course, it was perfectly timed in between my first and second child. I was a month away from having my second daughter be born, and
So you had
really not
nothing going on in your life, is what you're saying.
nothing at all, and not very many, sort of. I had cultivated, I guess, a list of folks who would call me when they had a problem, but didn't really have a lot of active matters that I was just going to take, a case or a transaction and
Hmm.
be able to run with it from day one. So it was. A lot of people say, "Well, that was crazy. That was pretty risky," but honestly, it felt at the time like just the right thing to do, and
Yeah.
I didn't really look back, and haven't had any regrets
Yeah.
subsequent.
There definitely is several different styles of attorneys, and some just love that big, corporate firm, having the high rise downtown, and I've known got some friends that they just bask in that, and then others who said, no, I want the freedom to, have my, you know, I don't know if say boutique firm. I fumble my words, but focus on certain niches. So um,
Sure.
it sounds like that's what you're doing and loving. So tell me more about kind of that startup. I mean, it was just two of you initially, or did you bring some others with you?
Just the two of us initially. We did hire a real estate paralegal that had formerly worked with us. Didn't She came with us? Didn't stay very long. Went on to, I think worked for the water company or someplace here in town. But initially, yeah, it was right from the get-go, it was me, and I had my sister answering the phones and trying to explain to her as not familiar with the legal parlance and the legal issues and those sorts of things, sort of, what we did. And then we sort of just slowly added, within a fairly short time, we added a couple of other associates in with us. Within probably a year and a half, we ended up having to move across the parking lot to bigger space. We used to be over at Brownsboro Park there behind what's now the Fresh Market there off the Waterson.
Mm.
So we just have kind of grown organically pretty steadily over time. And yeah, it started out with me, and then Alyssa came aboard about, I guess, second quarter of 2005.
Yeah. So when did the growth start? When did you realize you're okay, this is bigger than just the two of us. We're gonna start bringing others on board and turn it into a more of
Well,
a firm.
yeah, yeah. Well, in the firm that we had left, the firm I came from was sort of going through some changes and doing something that some firms do, and it was a different model than what I was used to because I'd been there for several years, and they were sort of shifting from sort of a firm where we have a pie that everyone sort of gets a piece of, and we're all sort of in and making decisions together. They
Mhm.
were transitioning into more of a I don't know, a space sharing type of an arrangement where sort of each person had their own book of business and they shared
Mm.
expense, but didn't necessarily collaborate on clients. That wasn't really the model that I was used to, having worked there for prior years, and it wasn't really the model I wanted. I really did kind of from the get-go want a law firm that wasn't just a kind of a expense sharing, space sharing type of an arrangement. And I wanted to have a collaborative environment. I knew that I enjoyed being around people. So I knew that it was never going to be the case that I was going to go out, be a sole practitioner, and that would be it.
Yeah.
I think I probably had in mind that we would get to, roughly the size that we are, a 12 to 15 lawyer firm. We're
Mhm.
still, dealing with the challenges that brings, but again, we've just kind of grown organically over time. But I think probably from the very beginning, I had it in my mind uh, to develop it into more than just me. Have at least a
Yeah.
handful of folks that had common interests, common experiences, and could sort of collaboratively help clients solve problems.
Yeah. So one of the things I often hear when I work with attorneys is that balance between being the boss, the manager, the person in the office versus the attorney that's billing out their time, and striking that balance as the leader of the firm. How do you go about that?
Well, I mean, I guess the primary position I've always taken is that there's no task that's above or below me, or should be above or below anybody else. We just want to cultivate a team culture.
Hmm.
If something needs doing, just because I have a JD doesn't mean I'm not the guy that should be doing it. So we try to disabuse people of feeling like this, I'm a paralegal and I don't send faxes, or I don't do these types of tasks. And we
Yeah.
really don't want that type of environment. We want people to sort of pitch in. And so, uh, my style tends to be that, everyone's an adult. You trust that you get good people first,
Hmm.
and then you trust them to do their job. So you don't really have to kind of look over their shoulder, pound your chest, and beat on your
Yeah.
desk. I don't think yeah, lording it over people, is a very effective way of managing folks. Being angry, yelling, throwing things. That's some people's style, but I don't really think that's a effective long term, at least, strategy.
Yeah.
So really, just trying to cultivate a team environment, and partly that is getting the right people on the bus.
Hmm.
Um,
So, so
that's
what's your
really
strategy there? Because I hear that all the time, and let's just be honest. I mean, there's probably a lot of attorneys that would come in that environment and go, no, I'm not going to send a fax. That's So how do you call out and find those right kind of team players?
well. I think first it starts with having the culture here that is genuinely like that, right? Being the kind of place that we say we are, and the kind of place we want to be. And then we really have to bear down in the interview process to make sure that we kind of ferret out those folks who don't have the same kind of mentality. Um, it's a tougher thing when you find you maybe made a wrong decision and then you have this person on board and they're not, we haven't historically done the best job of kind of taking action more quickly and sort of addressing that and sort of
Yeah.
making the tough decision to get rid of somebody. Um, but that's really the right decision, I think. I mean, I think it's all about the interview process, and really it's tough too, because it's not something that you feel in the moment is maybe worthy of your time and attention, but it was really the most important function you can play is setting the tone, setting the sort of rules that govern how you're going to operate as a business, and then getting people, on your team that believe in that,
Yeah.
that can help you forward. So, we'll do very sort of things that I think I find surprising that people don't do in the interview process. We at a very early point, we'll get references for folks and we will actually call them, and we'll have, as I don't want to impose, I know folks are busy, but a 15 or 20-minute phone call with someone who's worked with someone before is very helpful. And we'll make several of those, and we'll have follow-up meetings with the candidates and get them sort of introduced around to other people on the team, so that and get to see them in different environments, maybe a more
Yeah.
formal sort of interview environment, and then follow up if we like them and take them to lunch or take them out for drinks or for coffee, and really kind of test them out, because and I want, we want to get the folks who are already on the bus, we want them to
Yeah.
be on board with the decision that we make to bring someone on. But it's shocking to me, really, what people don't do in sort of that process of trying to find good people. And it's also shocking what former employees or coworkers of folks who are listed as people's references will tell you.
Oh,
But if you don't ask, you're not going to get that important
yeah.
information. Might help you save a whole lot of grief down the road. Um,
Yeah. Well,
that's
it's funny being an attorney. I mean, that's an area where a lot of times people are terrified to give honest feedback because they're afraid of, getting sued or blowback, from
sure.
giving a negative review. So that's kind of ironic.
Yeah. Well, and maybe it's possible that as if I'm talking to a lawyer in particular, maybe they feel a little more comfortable, because they're an attorney. We typically get pretty good information from folks, and if you ask the right questions and develop, first it's a matter of just making the commitment to focus on that. Appreciate that it's a distraction from what you're trying to do day to day, but it really is the most important function, I think, is get the right, once the culture is established, to be able to accumulate, the right people who buy into that, and believe those things themselves. I mean, they're not having to be sold on our
Mhm.
approach. They already kind of have that mindset. So we're really just identifying who those people are and then getting them on board. And that culture, if it's right, if you've managed to, establish the culture as I've indicated, to get the right person picked, then I think that longevity, we want to keep people here too if they're the right
Yeah.
person, and that sort of takes care of itself, right? As long as you are what you say you are and you
Yeah.
live it, not just say it, people appreciate that. And
Yeah.
we want good people. We want normal people in our practice. And everyone likes to talk about excellence. Well, we're going to strive for excellence, and excellence is here. We're going to serve our clients in an excellent fashion, and we're going to have excellent, uh, you know, approach, whatever. Alyssa and I've talked over the years. Really, the threshold is normal, and normal, it
I
turns
like
out,
that.
is normal is just slightly below excellent. But
Yeah.
a lot of people can't jump the normal bar, and that's what we try to be. I mean, just be decent folks, and treat people how they want to be treated, and how we would want to
Yeah.
be treated.
I
So
actually like
that's
that. I like that, taking people out to a meal. One of a leader I had back in my corporate days, he did that. Taught me that if you're hiring somebody into a leadership position, especially a leadership position, or obviously an attorney is, I would classify that as that. take them out and watch how they interact with the servers and other people. You can sense a lot about a person's character and how they treat others. And
Sure.
you get them out in that restaurant, they're a little, they're a little more relaxed. Their true colors sometimes come out. So that's
Yeah, I think so. And we always say too, what we do is stressful, and the pace at which we do it is sometimes seems unsustainable. It
yeah,
really pushes you. It really pushes you. It really stresses you. And then on top of that, have to account for what we do in sort of 6 minute increments, tenths of an hour of time, and we have to report that into our billing system that generates an invoice that goes to the client. So it's kind of a horrible situation sometimes, So we always say, look, if you're in the foxhole, you want to be doing it with people that you trust, and you want to be
yeah,
doing it. What we do can be sometimes difficult and stressful, that we want to be doing it at least with people that we appreciate, have our backs and we have theirs.
yeah,
And again, you're a team, as opposed to somebody necessarily being a leader and everybody else is just a soldier.
yeah. You've talked a lot about culture. If you could sum it up in a word or a brief statement, what would you how would you describe your culture?
Well, we did work a few years ago on, once we got to a sufficient size, we figured we really need to document kind of what these things are. What are the
Mhm.
reasons why we hire people? What are the reasons why we fire people or don't hang on to them? And we really kind of, the tagline that we adopted when we first opened sounds basic, and it doesn't seem all that enlightening at the beginning. It's just essentially committed to our client's success. And to me, that means um, we're going to treat your problem like it's our problem, right? If you're missing 150 grand in your bank account because your partner took it, then you really got to put yourself in that position of, it's your money, right?
Yeah,
How would you react to that situation, and really take kind of ownership of that problem, which is, again, kind of back to the stressful part of it. It is stressful. If I'm asking you to pretend, in essence, like what's been taken or done to this person, taken from or done to this person, uh, is horrible. Let's assume, put yourself in that spot, and then how, that's the kind of commitment we're talking about, to try to get to,
hmm,
um, figuring out how to solve the problem. And if you don't have that kind of urgency, and you don't have that kind of, you're not, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, you're not going to have the level of commitment you need to really be effective in solving the problem. So it's a commitment to the client in that regard, right? Sort of owning it. It's my problem now, and it is sort of almost like an actor, right? How an actor has to get in a certain mindset to play a certain character. You,
mm,
you, you really have to sort of imagine that it's your money. Imagine that it's your problem. Imagine that it's your partner that's doing all these horrible things. And then, okay, first of all, sit with that a little bit. How do you feel about it? What are we going to do to address it? But it's kind of a three levels of commitment, really, because we've got a sort of one page. We had an annual retreat and came up with a list of sort of what are our core principles, and what does it really mean to be committed to your client's success. And it really kind of ultimately came into thinking, it's sort of three parts. It's like a commitment to the client, of course, right? Because if you're not
hmm,
committed to the client, you're not going to stay in business for very long. But we've got to commit to our team and commit to our employees as well, and sort of building that atmosphere of collegiality, giving support, checking in with employees, making sure they have the tools they need to be successful. And then it's also a commitment to our community, because we will encourage employees to, I mean, we'll have social events throughout the year on a somewhat regular basis. But we do public service events. We've worked with the on the Thanksgiving food drive for St. Matthew's Area Ministries, and it's something we
hmm,
encourage people to do, to go out. Every time around Thanksgiving, the Boy Scouts do a food drive, and we all show up, and we spend the day basically sorting uh, canned goods that come in off the
hmm,
trucks, and help them sort
yeah,
of stock the food pantry. So um, that builds that team environment, but it's also helping others, in the community that need help. And again, if you want to stay around as a business and really sort of walk the walk, you gotta do those kinds of things too. So it's really kind of that's what we've kind of gotten to is it's a commitment to all three levels. You know, the community we operate in, the employees we work with, and the clients that we serve.
Hmm. Very good. I like that, and that's you're obviously looking at things beyond just the bottom line. You're driving to relationships, community, and team. That's great stuff.
Well,
Um,
I think it's the bottom line. You focus on the bottom line. You don't need to focus on the bottom line. You focus on all
yeah,
these other things. The bottom line takes care of itself. You
yeah,
know, we've never
yeah,
had a problem with attracting clients. It's more been a problem of getting their needs met and getting the
yeah,
resources to bear to be able to meet their needs.
yeah,
I do really think, I mean, that's one of the things that most surprised me starting out was we didn't take out a loan. We didn't spend a bunch of money to get started. We just sort of we opened up and we had already cultivated relationships that we managed to maintain and it's just kind of grown,
yeah,
you know, and we haven't focused, probably haven't done as good a job as we needed to of saying, okay, we're going to make $3 million this year. How are we going to do it? You know, it's really been more about just doing a good job for those we
yeah.
serve, and then clients
Well,
see
and
that
I
it
agree 100%.
builds.
But I agree 100% with what you said about if you take care of these things, the other takes care of itself. Especially in an industry like yours, that's there's never going to be a shortage of need. Unfortunately, people are always gonna there's always going to be lawsuits. There's always going to be disputes. And there's always, and fortunately, there's always going to be people starting businesses or expanding businesses that need help. So that's
Right.
awesome. So 20 years. What can you share an example of like a pain point you had where you had to overcome something and one of those uh, things you probably never expected when you started the business, but those unexpected things that happen to us as business owners.
I mean, I think the pain point is the finding and keeping good people. That's the sort of initial challenge, and it's been an ongoing and continuing challenge, and it'll always be there, right? That's sort
Yeah,
of the thing I found is one of the greatest challenges. Um, we've had a few small things that may not be pertinent to people in other industries, like uh, I mean, the very first thing I did was invest in the wrong CRM billing system and software for my firm. And
yeah,
we struggled with that. It was an ill-fitting software system for what size firm we were. It was really built for like a 100 person law firm or accounting firm. They did a good job of marketing it and not a really good job of maintaining it.
yeah,
And that was a struggle. I mean, that was our very first year of operation. We're putting all of our client information, all of our billing information into the system that we had to hire someone from out of town to come into town to help train us because it
yeah,
wasn't user friendly and it wasn't a good fit. I mean, really what we're talking about here is fit, right?
yeah,
Getting the right tools in place that fit the kind of firm you are, getting the right people in the door that are the right fit, and then attracting the right client that's the right fit. So we made a bad decision. I made a bad decision there. Somewhat mundane, but I mean, we made a pretty quick decision after the first.
that's a very common one. I'd say most small businesses will cycle through two or three different CRM systems and such because they, especially if you come from like I did, came from a big corporate setting, much like it's like, oh yeah, well, Salesforce or whatever, and like, no, that's not necessarily a fit for a one or two man operation. There's a whole lot of other things out there. Uh,
Yeah, so that was a
the
struggle, but a small one, and we dealt with that. And I was insistent. I think we probably kept it for a year just so we'd have all of our books for that year in this system. And we said we're going to go to this other one in year
yeah,
two, and we've stayed with it, and we've grown with it, and we're still growing
that's
with it.
pretty impressive actually that you've stayed with one for 19 years. And I appreciate
Mhm.
the fact you took ownership of it. You said, I made this decision, I drove it. That's but a lot of leaders will not own up to their mistakes, and that says a
If
lot
I
about who
could
you
pass the
are.
buck, I would, but there was no one to blame it on there. I was again,
But
Alyssa
we
joined me in the
we
second
we
quarter,
we
so
we can come up with stories in our mind and find other we someone Oh gosh, there was a great saying I heard yesterday at lunch, and it was something like, the stories we make up that nobody else will believe, in our talking about the stories we develop in our head, and we're always telling ourselves, but they're not really believable. We have a tendency to do that. So let's talk future. Let's talk about where you guys are going. What's your next challenge goal? What's on the forefront for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think my goal would be to, I don't think we're quite where we need to be in terms of being able to efficiently service the clients we've got. So I'd like to push growth a little bit. We're going to be limited, obviously, in how much we can do that in this space. It's going to take some creativity,
Mm,
maybe some folks working remotely, which is a more common thing at other places, not so common at our place. Although we allow people to work from home if they've got something going on. We don't tend to have folks who schedule time remotely in the office. So maybe it's a satellite office, maybe it's sort of allowing developing a policy to, if we're going to grow and we have a limited 7,000 square feet of space here, we're going to need places to put people, and we'll have to
hmm
figure that out. I don't envision being a whole lot bigger than we are. We might add up four, five, six more people, and I wouldn't think we'll break probably 20 lawyers. Um, in the context of that, and in order to bring that about, I've got to work to kind of extract myself out of the doing of the practice of law and more about the managing of the practice of law and the
hmm
mentoring of younger people, in most cases to do, teach them what I've been able to learn and have them
Right.
be the one that is sort of serving the client and me the person that's kind of managing them. That's I think the next challenge. We've all heard it from the very beginning, the importance of working sort of on the business and not in the business, and
Yeah.
and we've not really made that transition. So that's going to be a real challenge. And then I think the if I'm managing the business and really being the face of the firm and going out and marketing, then presumably we will be getting a lot more clients than we already have, which we're already struggling to serve appropriately. What are the systems that need to be in place to deal with that? Whether
Yeah.
it's client intake, um, and there's a lot going on right now with obviously AI and local
Mhm.
Google local service ads and uh, SEO, if it's even a thing anymore. I mean, it seems like AI does the SEO for you. And if you don't do a good enough job of positioning yourself digitally, then
Right.
AI is going to figure it out and pass you by. So
Yeah.
kind of getting your hands around what are those new trends and where is it going? Because we're affected by, new technology as much as anybody. Um, that's going to be my challenge is, again, also diving into, um, getting the right team and keeping the right team. So we have had a history of being reactionary. We lose a person we didn't expect to lose, and unfortunately, people tend to stay here for a long time when they come. If they leave us, they tend to go someplace else and do something entirely different because they're just burnt out on practicing law.
Yeah.
Um, and that's been our history. But so you find yourself behind, right? Because uh, you don't have a stable of prospects waiting in the
Yeah.
wings to bring on when that person you didn't expect to leave gives their notice. So those kinds of tasks are really where my focus is going to be, is making sure we know who to turn to kind of immediately upon learning that someone who's a valued employee is no longer going to be with us. Um, okay, what are we doing next, right? Versus being more proactive in approach to that type of issue, uh, being proactive as opposed to just relying on word of mouth, being proactive about marketing strategy, being proactive about what are the tools that we need. Our intake process, for example, has grown organically like everything else. It's like, well, we
Yeah.
have a sheet, we put information on it. But now with the sources of leads coming from, the digital world, coming from our website, coming from local service ads, coming from our social media accounts, we need to build landing pages and tailor marketing to specific needs. And then
Yeah.
how does the information that a client uh, that we need from a client or from a prospect get captured by us to be able to
hmm
sort of convert that prospect to a client? Those kinds of issues are issues that we haven't fully addressed, or they're sort of in process of being addressed. And quite frankly, I don't have the time to address them if I'm doing all the law practice.
Yeah.
And
Right.
really been the last several months has been a process of beginning to pull away from the doing of the law and more managing those that are doing the law practice. And I think that's going to be a long process. I'm hoping if you were to talk to me at the end of next year, well, I'll be coming up on 30. By then, I'll have practiced law for 30 years, which I think is long enough for anybody to do any one thing. I can then at that point say, I'm really a business owner. First, I'm a business owner. Second, I'm a lawyer,
Yeah.
and my business hires lawyers to help clients who need lawyers help them.
Yeah.
That's my goal, is sort of getting out of the fray, the day to day with your head behind a computer screen, and be able to really focus on the business in a way that it deserves.
Yeah. That's great and sage advice and that crosses industries. I see it. It's, you just said especially in with attorneys and doctors are another one, because your value, you're taught coming out of law school, your value is that billable hour, right? It's getting that billable time out to your clients, and now you're saying, hey, I've got 12, 15, 20 people on my team. If I'm making them more efficient, that's worth a lot more than
Well, it's
just
not
some
just
billable time.
value. I think with lawyers and doctors both, and probably other professionals, it's identity.
Yeah.
We think of ourselves as lawyers. Well, what does a lawyer do? I mean, uh, you know, here I need to be thinking really first about being a business owner, and second about being a lawyer, and to disconnect. I would say too, though, that my identity hasn't personally been wrapped up too much in, I'm a lawyer. I wear the lawyer badge and I walk around and tell everybody I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
It is really that I have a law firm. But a lot of, medical professionals are tied up in that too, right? I don't
Yeah.
want to work on the business side of things. I'm here to treat patients. I'm here
Yeah.
to meet clients and do trials or do business deals, and I'm not going to work on the business. Someone else can handle that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm pretty well disabused of that notion personally, but knowing it
Doing.
and achieving it
Yeah.
are two
Yeah.
different things. I'm not quite there yet.
Well,
So I'm working on that, and that's going to be my challenge, I think, for the next, like I said, at least until the end of next year, probably to be
yeah.
in a substantially different spot than I am today.
Yeah. Well, that's
So,
awesome. It's great that you have that goal. Uh, just wrap up. I always like to ask a question. Basically, if you were talking to, a young Kevin Eddins out there who maybe he's working in another firm, thinking about going out on their own, um, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's maybe thinking doing what you did 20 years ago?
well, I talked to a person we were looking to hire, and I learned in the process of that he was interested in maybe opening up his own firm, and I gave him the advice I would give anybody else: do it. Like, why are you talking to me? Go do what you want to do. If that's what you want to do, you don't need to take another job with me to leave in a year or two to decide that you're going to finally now be willing to do it and able to do it. I think you just need to get uh, overcome inertia and do it. And it feels scary, but to be honest, if you have done the right things in terms of being the right kind of person, getting out there and networking and BNI groups or chambers and that sort of thing, you've developed already sort of a circle of friends and colleagues. They'll lift you up. You'll step out and they'll want to help you be
Yeah.
successful. So I would encourage them to just make the step, and then I would say it is important to really be engaged in sort of networking. I mean, we can put money into all kinds of things. There, I don't know that radio is where it's at. It's certainly not probably print publications anymore. You can put a lot of money into things that maybe aren't going to pay any dividends. And
Yeah.
uh, I think where the real investment is in talking to people. And so if it's any sort of networking group, whether it's a BNI group, with chambers around, our firm just in the last few years joined a group called Primaris. It's a international group of lawyers of
Mm.
similarly sized firms that are helping each other basically. And the benefit of that is I have resources now around the country where if a
Right.
client says I've got multiple locations and I say, well, I'm not a California lawyer, I can't help you with that issue, but I know somebody who is. And we go to conferences and there are people that I have met personally and I've been able to refer business to. So that type of a networking group, presents opportunities for you when
Sure.
you're out on your own. So yeah, I would just encourage people to develop their network, to make the jump to just do it at a point where they're ready to go. Sometimes it's not that, and there's nothing guaranteed. In my case, I felt like because the firm was making changes that weren't consistent with where it had been when I was working there, I just felt like it was time to go. And I
Hmm.
just did it. And I, again, came to the realization that no matter how successful I was in that environment, I was only going to be one voice out of 8 or 9 or 10,
Yeah.
and thus have no ability to really direct the course of anything. So, yeah, I think just making the decision to do it and then to stay engaged, with others to try to build that momentum,
Yeah.
um, is important.
Great. Well, thanks for that advice. It's very sound advice. And sometimes it's just a matter of, pulling the ripcord and doing it, right? Just
Yep.
making that jump, and it's not always easy to do. If folks need a attorney, real estate, family law, business here in the Louisville area or Kentucky, how do they find you guys?
Well, we've got a website at Louisville Lawyers with an S.com. It's probably needs some updating, but it has most of the information you will need to find out the sorts of things that we do. So I would encourage you to check us out on LouisvilleLawyers.com, and all of
Yeah,
our
it's pretty
contact.
amazing you got that URL in 2005. That was
Yeah,
a win right there.
it's been great. Yeah, I was shocked that it was available. I think we bought it from somebody in Beijing for
Yeah,
$500 back in the day.
right,
So
right. Worth every penny. So, well, excellent. Well, thank you for coming on the program and appreciate hearing your story and look forward to seeing your all's growth over the next few years.
well, thank you, John. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked it, please share or like it on whatever platform you use. You can find me on social media. On most platforms, I'm John K. Jennings. My first book is also available. Your Baby is Ugly tells you about 10 truths that business owners need to hear, but often won't, and how to overcome them. You can find it on Amazon. Just search for Your Baby is Ugly. And be watching for our next episode where I'll interview another business owner who will share their stories and insights into what it's like to create a great business.